Yeah. Hell yeah. What's up? What's going on? Good morning. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, world. Hello. Welcome. Welcome to this fine Thursday edition of BS with Hannas. That's me, Nikki B. Hannas, out here on YouTube in the morning. It's my little morning YouTube talk show a few times a week. I missed it yesterday, so I'm making up for it today. Yeah, it's a fine Thursday morning. The whole premise of this is I like to wake up and take a nice walk, read some good stuff, talk to the people. Once I'm done talking to the people out here, I'm going to go lift some weights and go to work, go about my business, handle it. You know what I'm saying? Today is Thursday, which means it's a squat day. It's a quad day. It's one of my favorite days. It's a good one. I find when I do big lifts, like I work out every day. So chest days get the big compound motions. Quad days get the big compound motions. Back days usually get the big compound motions. But like arms and shoulders, I'll do some weight, but I like going real heavy on the reps on those days. Not so much today. I'll load the bar up till about, I can hover right around 4 plates for single reps. You know what I mean? Do sets of 5 warming up. Climb, 135, 185, 225, 275. Right about there, I'll drop to about 3 reps a set. 315, 365. Once I get them 4 plates, boom. Big 4 plate single. And depending how I feel, I'll throw 10s on there. Just hit a couple singles in the high rep range, and I'll put that box under my ass. Throw a couple more plates on there if I can, and once I do all that, then I'll drop set all day, and it's a good session. It's a great way to get it all together to activate that motherfucking high thumos before I get to work. And I'm kind of sick for that. Thursdays at work, a whole bunch of orders come in, and I got to throw big boxes of potatoes around everywhere, and I'm always a little sore climbing up and down, putting away paper products and whatever. But it's all good. It's kind of hard to be in a negative place after you're throwing around weight like that for a while. So I love that. The only time it puts me into a negative place is because I'm primed to just be high fucking energy. So sometimes if a triggering occurs, I just get pissed. I just get mad. I get intolerant. I get impatient when I'm firing on all cylinders and I'm looking at dumb bullshit. But that's okay. That's a me problem. That's something I got to figure out. But it's all good. So that's what I'm doing. Like I said the other day, I was talking about on Monday, I was talking about the gig I played over the weekend, which was awesome. But I'd also mentioned that I'd finished Anti Fragile by Talim Naseb. Nassim Taleb. My schizo's coming out this morning. By Nassim Taleb, Anti Fragile. So I just wanted to come on here real quick and for posterity reasons, with a nice shaved face. It's nice and cold out today. Autumn is here. It's October. Spooky season, crispy season, if you will. I wanted to feel that cold on my face. Wake me the fuck up. But yeah, thinking about Anti Fragile. Damn. Roommate's car is loud as shit. I love it. Yeah, thinking about Anti Fragile, right? So the summary of it by the author's own words, well, rather by a friend of the author in the closing chapter, Anti Fragile, Nassim Taleb. He said, here's the summary. Everything gains or loses from volatility. Fragility is what loses from volatility and uncertainty. The implication there is to not be fragile, not be easily disrupted, not to have one variable come in and shatter the whole picture, which is kind of what we're seeing now in the world. Stuff we see a lot. You know, when I read stuff like this, there's two, most things that I consume, I look at it as how does this apply to me and my world, my immediate sphere of things versus what examples of this do I see out there somewhere or another, you know, looking out there when you look at the, what's everyone freaking out about right now? Everyone's crying about the government shut down. They shut down the government. No, the fuck they didn't. No, the fuck they won't. The government is a leviathan, way too large to just shut down. So let's live in reality, but also acknowledge what we're looking at. When you've got, let's say, one layer of things insofar as the government has is 1,000 moving parts. Now, let's say there's 2 layers to it all. All right, so there's 2,000 moving parts. Let's say there's 10 layers to it. You've got 10,000, for example, moving parts and variables and things that could potentially induce volatility. That makes it fragile. So when a bunch of goofy motherfuckers in suits posturing and acting and fucking, playing their roles in the machine. Well, they can't agree on this. And the funding of the whole thing, let's just say, is dictated by them coming to a mutual understanding and reaching across the aisle and participating in bipartisan. That inherently makes it fragile. So when you introduce a little volatility to that, what loses? As my man Nassim Taleb says, fragility. The fragile lose. Loses from volatility and uncertainty. So that's the outside world. As a quick example, I see it everywhere. I'm sure I'm not alone in that. Insofar as what I'm doing, it's like, introduce an element of volatility to me. What happens when something bad happens? What happens when fucking craziness, unexpected events occur? You hope to not lose from it. You hope to not have it unravel. And then throughout my life, there have been many times where a bad event, a black swan event of sorts, is introduced to my life. And I've unraveled. I've lost it. I've spiraled. It's just the name of the game. You got to learn from it. You got to rebuild and get better at it. And I think it's a very, very useful thing. One cool term I found from this book, and again, the principle of it is to build yourself to be anti-fragile. Fragility shatters under stress. Things that are robust things endure. Anti-fragile things get stronger. At my best, I think in my life, I've employed that in many ways. That's the thing you read about in self-help and coaching and discipline studies all the time. That doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. Only if it doesn't break you first. You know what I mean? But, very interesting stuff. This term I found, which apparently is based on a Greek myth, this term that he used a lot, the Procrustean bed. The bed of Procrustes. Now, Procrustes was a Greek dude from all those old Greek legends. We know how I like those old classic Western canon Greek myths. He uses it as a system, a Procrustean bed. He describes as a rigid, arbitrary system where things are made to fit in it. When things are made to fit in a rigid and arbitrary system. That's a very interesting idea. Another one that we see everywhere in the world. And if we're not careful, we'll bring that shit into our own lives. We'll fit things into our own little Procrustean bed. Now, from what I learned of this, the myth of Procrustes is, so here's a little Google summary of it. Procrustes, whose name means, quote unquote, the stretcher, was a villain who would lure travelers to his home to stay the night. He had a special iron bed, and he would force his victims to lie in it. If a person was shorter than the bed, he would stretch their body to fit the length by hammering or racking it. If a person was longer than the bed, he would cut off the parts of their body that hung off the ends. Yeah, that's a fucking crazy, interesting myth. The fate, in either case, the victim died. Whether Procrustes would stretch the victim out to fit the bed or whether he would hack their limbs to make them fit the bed. In either case, the victims died as their bodies were forced into an unnatural and deadly shape. The Greek hero Theseus eventually defeated Procrustes by capturing him and fitting him to his own bed, an act that led to Procrustes' death. His weapons were used against him, in other words. But isn't that a fucking captivating idea, I think? And apparently there's a litany of modern usages for the term, but a Procrustean bed, fitting things into something they ought not fit in, fitting ideas or practices or people or what have you, relationships, any kind of thing, fitting things into a system that is rigid and arbitrary. Man, I think that's so interesting. I see that shit everywhere. I think often about the idea. I heard it was on a tweet or an Instagram post or something one time that while everyone likes to complain and piss and moan that the top 1% run the world. There's a really good argument for that, but that's how it's always been anyway. There's another good argument that says society at large is actually dictated by the bottom 10%. And that turns into a constant like compensation game for the lack of performance. It's not the overachievers, it's not the overly influential, it's not the overly successful that really call the shots. It's the people who can't keep up. It's the people who are behind. It's the people who do not perform. It's the people who are constantly relying on the others in the higher echelons to keep them along for the road. You know, Game of Thrones example, when they're fucking coming back from the north after they find the White Walkers and all that shit. And Sam Tarly, while we like Sam Tarly, he's a big fat mess and he's demoralized. He's disheartened. He doesn't want to trek all the way back down south. He wants to give up. And everyone keeps walking. Everyone keeps walking. Only a couple dudes bolster him and pick him up and make him stay the course. And, in the story, in the archetype of Sam as the unbeknownst hero, the intellectual, not a warrior of swords, but a warrior of words and thoughts and intelligence, archetypally, that makes a lot of sense. It's very, very poignant storytelling. But if I'm a dude who just witnessed a massacre and I'm trying to hightail it the fuck out of there, I'm a soldier, and this bull back here, that's the phenomenon. And while these great archetypal stories are based on life, I don't know, not always do things in life mirror the stories, Real life is way messier than that. That's what my man Nassim Taleb talks about in Anti-Fragile. Life is inherently random and you can't predict it. We try to predict it, we try to control it, but you inherently cannot. Life is messy. This huge collective body, the multitudes of people living and doing things proactively and reactively. It's a messy, unpredictable, chaos-inducing game. Yeah, so that's the Procrustean bed. I see that shit everywhere. I see it at work all the time. I see it, in the news all the time. I see it all over the place. And there's an antidote to that. It's to be anti-fragile, to be excellent, to get your shit together, do the right things, and keep hammering. That's what I think, at least. That's kind of some of my takeaways from it, And this dude, Nassim Taleb, he's got a massive disdain for those, he says, the talking heads, the speculators, the commentators, of which apparently I'm a commentator too, but that's okay. He has a massive disdain for those with no skin in the game. Now, he describes that, skin in the game is the idea that the captain goes down with the ship. Every captain goes down with every ship. That's accountability and being held to account and, having standards. And when the standards are not met, if you're going to be out there advocating for something or doing something or recommending something or offering suggestions or having some level of control over the levers of actionable power, what happens when you've got levers of control over actionable power and nothing happens? Well, that adds to the litany and miasma of bullshit that we see in the proverbial out there, that I see out there. This guy, this author, Nassim Taleb, he's got tremendous disdain for those with all the opinions in the world, all the things and thoughts and arguments and so on and so forth, but they ain't got no skin in the game. Moving past skin in the game, he has an idea called having soul in the game. This kind of caught me. I paid attention to this too. Soul in the game, or what he calls, like I said, he makes up a lot of his own words, I think. But I like that. He says it's a doxastic commitment. DOXASTIC. Doxastic. I don't know where he got those terms from. I'm not so hyper intelligent to pick up on the etymology of that. Moving on, he still calls it soul in the game. He says that you must only believe predictions and opinions by those who committed themselves to a certain belief and had something to lose in a way to pay the cost in being wrong. And this guy wrote his first major book, which he called Black Swans, the Black Swan event, which is kind of some semi-common parlance these days. He wrote that book in 2007 as if prophetically predicting the 2008 economic crash. I was in high school. I didn't give a fuck. I wasn't aware of any of that. But isn't it interesting that, 2025, 2007, what's that, 18 years? 18 years later, I can read this stuff now and look back and be like, damn, my man, I should probably listen to this guy. Here he is with scorn for people who have no ability to be held to account of anything, but yet run their yaps and offer all this talking heads, which has only been sent into hyperdrive in the past damn near 20 years. These people that wield influence, well, we ought to question the validity of their influence. Most of these motherfuckers ain't worth listening to. Take that one step further, you can only believe predictions and opinions by those who have committed themselves to a certain belief and have had something to lose, a price to be paid. There's a cost to having such firm convictions. I think that's a compelling idea. And even if those are the only three things I pulled out of this whole book that I can actually take with me as I move past having just read a book for this thing called 75 Hard that I'm doing, I think they're useful. When I read a lot, you read a lot of words, you read a lot of pages. If you listen to a lot of stuff on YouTube, you listen to a lot of people, you listen to a lot of speeches, some thumbnails and titles catch out at you. And there's always little small things that are the ones that are really worth, keeping with you. It's kind of silly and idealistic to expect to remember every word of everything that you've ever read in your whole life. But sometimes, man, those couple things, it's just like those are what kind of changes your compass a little bit. It keeps you oriented right, keeps you more towards true north, keeps you fucking on that right path, that path of righteousness, so to speak. Now, it's also worth noting that this guy, Nassim Taleb, in his epilogue, he has a little note on his own seclusion. So while I like what he says, and, let's not get into ad hominem, although I'm pretty in favor of ad hominem, similar to the idea of skin in the game and soul in the game. It's like, a lot of people just ain't worth fucking listening to. The people that I find are worth listening to are people that can demonstrate some type of mastery, some type of authority, some type of respectable authority, not an alleged or bestowed upon them. I think that stands to reason. I'm not going to take gym advice from a fat slob. Well, that's an ad hominem. Just like when, Big Bad Orange Man gathered all his generals into masses, and people are freaking out about Pete Hegseth, who I don't fucking care about one way or the other, but they're freaking out that Pete Hegseth is telling the military men to not have fat generals, that having fat military men, out of shape warriors, is a bad look. Yeah, no shit. Well, that's just so insensitive. Who cares with their body? It's so self-evidently stupid that this is even a topic of consideration, and that we're even listening to these squawking hens on The View, that this is now propagating and going through screens and headlines, and here's another person talking about it. Here's another person talking about it. Well, fuck me. Here I am talking about it too. It's so self-obvious that it's like, bring back ad hominem. Bring it back. Who cares what those goofy rhetoricians and tenured professors at the university told me how an ad hominem is a rhetorical fallacy? It's pretty good. Shut up. You're fat. Don't tell me shit. I ain't listening to you. And I'm not the rich dude, but, if a rich dude thinks to himself, man, you're poor. Jay-Z said that. You're broke. The fuck you gonna tell me? Oh, that's in 22 twos, by the way. Yeah, do you think Jay-Z's gonna take advice from a poor dude? From a broke motherfucker? No. Well, that's an ad hominem. You're discrediting all my hard-won intellectual thinkings. Shut up. You got nothing to prove for it. You got nothing to show for it. So what the fuck does it matter? Very interesting stuff. This is just stuff that I think about, at least on this fine Thursday morning. But like I was saying, Nassim Taleb said that he put a little note on his own self-induced seclusion. At the end, he says he spent over 1,000 days, over 300 days of 3 years, over 300 days of every year, with minimal interaction from society. Okay. So from 2007 to 2012, or whatever, thereabouts, in between the writings of the two books, self-induced seclusion. So he just chose not to engage. And that's a kind of a contradiction, I think, that's worth noting as I read this book. Even though I pull some good stuff out of it, even though there's some real gems and useful information in there, useful augmentations of my own thinkings as I'm relearning how to think as a sober adult. It's like this dude has some type of ability, be it wealth or property or just straight up ability. Is it privilege? Yeah, maybe that's okay. That's all right if it's privilege. Good on you, man, because you're producing intellectual works while, condescending the other intellectuals. I get it, and I'm just a spectator out here. It's all good. Give me all of it. I'll read all of it. Fuck yeah. But how are you going to critique society when one doesn't participate in society? Worth thinking about. It's like all these crazy right-wing patriots who just want to go live in the woods. Serve your country by not participating in it. Silly. Very silly to me. But what do I know? It's time to go do some motherfucking squats. Oh, what's up, Matty K? You're in the chat. I didn't even see that. What you say, bro? Saw you turn adversity into productivity back in the garage practice days. Yeah, man, that probation shit fucked me up. I hated being on probation. I hated losing my license. I hated when my chick left me at the time. I hated fucking having to walk to and from work. I hated having to go piss in cups. I hated having to fucking pay the man every step of the way. But you know what I loved? I loved that 5.5, 6 mile walk in the morning. I had to go piss in a cup. Had to have the dude at the Justice Center look at my, watch the dragon as it drained. I hated that. So I would wake up super early and not take a morning piss. I would brush my teeth and just walk 6 miles. And while I hated all that stuff, and then I got fired from that pizza job shortly thereafter. I was miserable, horrible stuff. But you know what did happen? Our singer quit. You know what did happen? Someone's got to step up. You know what did happen? I had to step up and fucking front this band that I started, baby. That's it. That was the only option. So 6 mile walk with a full bladder. Miserable. What are we going to do about it? We're going to listen to the trusty iPhone recordings from the garage practices. We're going to write all these lyrics, and I'm going to look like an idiot walking on down this big stretch of road. The whole county can see this dude walking down the road. I'm one of those cats out here in the suburbs. Motherfuckers don't walk down those roads in the suburbs unless they're degenerates, typically. Why don't you take the bus? I did it once, and it was horrible. It sucked. It was miserable. I'd rather walk. And I wrote a bunch of songs. Learned how to front a band, and here we are. So, fucking A. Happy Thursday, y'all. One love. Keep it real. Onwards we go. I'm going to take it off of here with Nikki B. Hannas, which you can find. Oh, shit, I almost forgot the plugs. Thanks for hanging out. This is BS with B. Hannas. That's me, Nikki B. Hannas. You can find this on YouTube, Spotify podcast, Apple Podcasts at BS with B. Hannas. Also on YouTube, you can just go to Nikki B. Hannas. There's a bunch of music on there, some live performances. I got this new series I'm going to do where I'm just jamming along the backing tracks just because I like to play guitar. You know what I'm saying? You can go to, for my music, nickybhannas.com, nickybhannas.bandcamp.com, Nikki B. Hannas on all streaming services. I like to write every now and then. I'm starting to write a little bit more. You can find that on Substack, nickybhannas.substack.com. And for the consolidated, condensed, every single bit of content I put out, I'm just going to throw it on the Patreon. If you want to give me money, support the mission, hell yeah. If not, all good. Patreon.com/Nikki B. Hannas. Music started early. I'm out. Wrong path. One love. Peace.